What's going on, everybody? Frank from 5 AM Ramen, and I am in the coldest big city in Japan, here in Asahikawa, Hokkaido. And did you know that Asahikawa is home to Santouka, their headquarters? Santouka has become a popular ramen brand around the world, especially with many branches in the US. But I'm visiting their flagship shop, their headquarters, whatever you want to call it. Let's see if the taste is any different compared to their other branches. I can only speak for the ones in Japan, but I am very curious. Hopefully you are too. Let's see what Santouka headquarters is all about. So, Santouka headquarters here in frozen Asahikawa. And when I go on these ramen trips, I'm always trying to squeeze in as much ramen as possible. On this trip, I've done 4 bowls a day. And when I was at Santouka, I'm like, you know, I've eaten Santouka a number of different times. Do I really need to visit the headquarters or the flagship shop? So the ramen collector in me is like, yeah, you want to say that you visited the headquarters shop. You've eaten the ramen there. But on the more practical side of things, I'm like, well, I could have had another bowl here in Asahikawa. And I don't say that because of disliking Santouka or anything like that. It's more the fact that Santouka has become a large brand and a successful ramen company to the point where the ramen is supposed to, for the most part, taste the same at every single branch, at least in Japan. Maybe over in the States, it's a little bit different just because they use different ingredients wherever they source them, but no regrets because I'm happy I got to visit Santouka's headquarters. Now, as to the ramen, for those of you that aren't familiar with Santouka, it's salt seasoned with a rich pork bone broth, but one that's not too rich, nice and silky smooth. And the million-dollar question, is it any different at their headquarters, at least compared to, let's say, the branches in Shibuya and other parts of Tokyo? I have to say that it tastes very similar, but I feel like this time around, maybe it was just in my head, I feel like it tasted a little bit better at headquarters. It was a little more polished here. And maybe that's just because they're paying attention to that a little bit more at the headquarters. Nice salt-seasoned base holding up that smooth-tasting pork bone soup. Thin, but not too thin noodles to soak it all up. You've got the chashu pork there, spring onions, the signature fish cake, and of course, the even more signature ume plum. And that is Santouka's world-famous shio ramen. And maybe it was a little bit better at the headquarters. But as I was in there, of course, I was also reminded of how Santouka has become a successful brand. They had t-shirts they were selling there in the corner. It's very clean on the inside, very nice interior. So just like when I visited Ichiran's headquarters, Ippudo's headquarters in the past, Sumida as well, you kind of know what to expect. It's going to be a nice headquarters and one that's part of a successful company. And again, Santouka, they've done very well in the States. They were setting up the franchise system for their ramen restaurants well before anybody else was. And here in Japan, for reference, in the 80s and 90s, they were on top. You watch old 80s and 90s ramen videos and there were lines out the door at Santouka. But more recently, they've kind of faded into the background just because so many other ramen shops have come forth and so many ramen shops have elevated the ramen scene. But Santouka, of course, is still relevant, and you have to appreciate what they've done as pioneers. And on a similar note, their instant ramen is one of the best out there. Their premium instant ramen is still one of my favorite instant ramen. So good. So there you have it. That was Santouka headquarters. Hope that was a good enough of a ramen report. I really built it up. And just like some of the other headquarters I've visited for these larger ramen companies, it was what I expected in a good and in a I expected that kind of way. This is Frank from 5 AM Ramen signing out. I hope you enjoyed this quick ramen video here. And if so, do consider subscribing if you haven't already and hit the like button as well if you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. Have you had Santouka in Japan or outside of Japan? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and hope to see you in the next video. This is all part of a greater Hokkaido ramen series, so stay tuned for the next Hokkaido ramen video. Amazing ramen up here in the north.